I think I think we should make a start so people can get out in the sunshine if they want to, rather than sitting in front of a screen. Um, so, welcome to our webinar on getting started with the bibliography of British and Irish history. I'm Rowie Sweet. I'm from the University of Leicester in the UK. I'm an 18th century historian, and I've been involved with the bibliography of British and Irish history since 1998. First of all, as a section editor, one of the people who checks all the entries that we publish, and more recently, since 2018, as the academic director. And I'm joined by my colleague, Jenny Lelkish Ruragal, and I can never say Jenny's name correctly, who's our editor. And we'll be splitting this presentation between us. It's just an overview of the new interface for the BBIH. Can we go to the next slide, Jenny? So what we're going to cover in this webinar is an introduction to the new interface, but it's also an introduction to what the BBIH does. So if you've not used it before, this will also be a good introduction to what you can actually use the BBIH for, looking at what the data, the coverage, what we include in the bibliography, but also looking at the new functionality that we have with a refreshed interface. And this part of the webinar is being recorded, but when we move to Q&A at the end, we will no longer be recording. So no need to feel any inhibitions about asking questions. Next slide, Jenny. So the bibliography of British and Irish history has been going since, well, 1909 in one form or another. It is a historic bibliography, which means that it is one of the reasons why it is so extensive. It's a long-term cumulative product. And more recently, it's been we've been compiling it in partnership with the Royal Historical Society and the Institute of Historical Research, and it's now a partnership between Brepols and the IHR, which is based in the University of London. And the bibliography contains over 660,000 references. And these cover, as you might expect, the domestic histories of the British Isles and Ireland, but it's also the global history of the British and Irish worlds, because we include material that relates to empire, and therefore it's not just what happens in Britain and Ireland, but throughout what was the former British Empire. And these histories are covered from 55 BC, more or less, up until the present day, and we're constantly updating it. And whilst the bibliography is strong on British and Irish history in its broadest context, I think it's really important to remember you can use the BBIH to research more interdisciplinary areas within history, such as histories of migration, race and ethnicity, gender, sexual identity, social class, disability, mental health, environmental history, and the history of emotions. And I think this is one of the great strengths of the bibliography, the ability to search across pursuing particular themes and historical agendas rather than simply a particular topic. If we can go on to the next slide, please, Jenny. So as I said, we're constantly updating it. We update it 3 times a year, and each time there's around 10,000 new records added each cumulatively 10,000 new records added. And these cover books, journal articles, book chapters, reviews of books, and some history PhD theses. We had hoped that we would be much further along with the coverage of PhDs, but the cyber attack on the British Library has rather stalled our plans for incorporating more of the data from EFOS, the British Library catalogue of PhDs. But there are quite a number of PhDs on there. And if we have the next slide. As you can see, this just illustrates our global coverage. And this is a heat map which shows the total number of BBIH records by geography. So you can see, well, outside the British Isles, concentration in North America, in Europe, in India, Australasia and the Pacific. And this reflects, as I say, the fact that we include all historical works that are about British interactions with Europe, for example, or the British in other parts of the world, whether that's India, Australasia, South Africa, and British communities in North America, colonial America, for example. And if we have a next slide, what we want to do today is look at the new interface. This was launched towards the end of last year in 2024, and it has much better accessibility. It's compliant with Web Content Accessibility Guidelines. The search screen, which we have now, is much more dynamic, and it allows you to add and remove search fields. And the particularly useful search fields. One is the Search Anywhere drop-down menu that consolidates the wealth of Brepols bibliographies into one single comprehensive field. One is the period covered, which I think is unique, possibly to the BBIH, that you can actually restrict the period you want to look at in terms of searches. And then the thematic search, with listed click and pick categories which facilitate combined searches across other indices like subjects, places, and centuries. And the hit list allows you to filter your search results, which allows you to narrow down the array of results that the search has yielded. So these all sound a bit abstract, just introduced like that, but Jenny is going to go through a few slides now and show you what these different kinds of search look like in practice.
Cool. Thank you, Rory. So as Rory mentioned, BBIH's dynamic search screen enables you to add or remove search fields. You can also change the category of an existing search field depending on your own research interests. And it also enables you to combine search fields with Boolean operators to filter your results straight away. And these are on the screen here are all the kind of search options that you can use to the different categories that you can use to search by, depending on what your research interests are. And in addition to free text searching, the new Search Anywhere option enables you to search by bibliographical details. So that might be by author, publisher, book series, or journal. You can also search by BBIH's unique subject tree, which contains over 8,000 keywords that have been developed by historians with historians in mind. You can also search by BBIH's place tree, which enables you to conduct really granular place-based searches. And you can also search by historical figures by using the person as subject filter as well. And as Rory mentioned, one of BBIH's unique features is being able to search by historical period. So in the period covered search, you can specify a precise date or set a chronological range depending on your own research interests. And the theme search enables you to conduct broader searches across subjects, places, and centuries. So in this example that you can see here, we've been using it to search the histories of migration policies in the UK and Australasia. So once you have built your search, this is an example of the new BBIH results page or hit list. And as Rory mentioned, it offers a comprehensive filter options on the left-hand side, which enable you to narrow down your search results based on what your own research interests are. So, for example, you could filter your results by new items that have been added during the latest BBIH update, items that contain a link to a full text, but you can also use a really wide range of filters by subject and by bibliographical information. So if you wanted to view the detailed records of everything you found in the BBIH hit list, you can click on the View All button at the top of the screen. But as in this example, it's quite a significant number of results. If you wanted to see a smaller number of BBIH records, what you can do now is view selected records. So you used to be able to do this by clicking on tick boxes that were at the beginning of a BBIH record in the hit list, but now in the new interface, this is done by clicking on the Add to Selection button at the end of a record. Once you've clicked on that button, it will change to Added to Selection, and you can view your selected records by clicking on View Selection at the top of the screen. So this is an example of what a record looks like. This is an example for a journal article. Just one thing to note is that book chapters are called articles in BBIH, so that's just something to point out for when you're doing your searches. And each BBIH record is structured in the same way. So what you'll have is that the bibliographical information at the top of the screen, the subject information in the middle of the screen, and depending on the type of record that you're looking at, you may find at the bottom links to book reviews or links to the full text via the DOI, the journal homepage or the publisher homepage, or online databases such as JSTOR or Project Muse. Any text in green is a link to a new search within BBIH, and this is particularly helpful for finding what else the bibliography might hold on your research topic. One thing that BBIH also has is links to the Oxford Dictionary of National Biography, or ODNB, the UK's National Archives catalogue, as well as Who's Who Was Who, which you can see on the screen here is highlighted in red next to the person as subject. By clicking on these links, they'll take you through to those resources if your institution has a subscription. And we've included them in here because it's often worth exploring the links in BBIH, as they can be a little bit overlooked, but can be really helpful for your own research. So we've gone through how to kind of quickly search BBIH, what a record looks like. Now I'm going to talk about a bit about how you can navigate from BBIH to go about actually reading the materials that you found. So at the top of each BBIH record, you'll find several options to go about finding the materials. If you're studying or working at an academic institution, the best place to start is by searching your institution's library. So you can do this by clicking on the Find a Copy app button, which will take you through to your library catalogue, where you can find information about print availability or online access. The next one would be using the full text button, which will direct you to the publisher's website. So some of the resources, the resource you may have found may be open access, in which case you could read it straight away. Otherwise, you'll need to check with your institutional library or university library to see if they have access to the resource. The external links at the bottom of the BBIH record will also direct you to the full text where available as well. If you've gone through those first two options and you're able to find your institution doesn't have access to the thing that you're looking for, the next thing that you could do is by clicking on Google Books button, which will take you through to Google Books, and from there you can navigate through to WorldCat. So this is particularly helpful. For example, if you're based in the UK, you might be able to find a book in a public library, or if you want to request an item through document supplier or interlibrary loan, depending on where you're based in the world. And then another option is to also click on the Library Discover button, which will direct you through to JISC Library Hub Discover, which lists the collections of over 200 academic, national and specialist libraries in the UK and Ireland, and is another useful resource for finding materials. So what I'll do now is I'll hand you back over to Rowie, who will talk a little bit more about setting up an e-alert and citations and referencing.
Thanks, Jenny. Yes, so as well as being able to click through to find out which libraries have got the item you're interested in, you can also use the BBIH to keep up to date with the latest research that has been published in your field. BBIH offers an email alert service, and it's very easy to set this up. These alert services allow you to save your searches, and you'll be notified when there's a BBIH update which contains new records that match your saved research. So that's relating to the update that takes place 3 times a year. And when you receive the email, all you need to do is click on the links and you'll be taken straight through to your personalised listing, and you'll see all the new material has been flagged as new. If we can go to the next slide. Great. And so you can also use BBIH to manage your reference lists and bibliographies by exporting references. And this also means that you can compile a bibliography or add footnotes to your academic work in a very straightforward way. You simply click on the Cite button and copy the citation you need. And those of you who are familiar with the old BBIH will really appreciate this development, because we had no such optionality in the last iteration, and I certainly find it immensely frustrating. So very pleased to see this development. Next slide, Jenny. Thank you. And you can also export references to reference management software such as RefWorks, Satira, or EndNote. And so this again saves time when compiling reading lists and bibliographies and footnotes. And again, if you want to export things, all you need to do is click the if it's the entire search, export all from the hit list and choose whichever program you want to export it to, or you can simply select one or two items. Next slide. And if you do want to export a smaller number of records, you can do this by clicking on the plus add to selection button at the end, and the button again will change to added to selection, or you can click on the export selection at the top of the screen. And if you're using Zotero, you'll be familiar with the Zotero plugin, where you can save from the BBIH hit list the references that are relevant to your research. And the next slide. So this slide really just summarizes some of the information we've been throwing at you rather quickly. It highlights the importance of using bibliographies like BBIH when undertaking historical study, research, or teaching, because BBIH enables you to identify relevant publications and reviews. It allows you to explore links to the full text and other external resources. It allows you to export references and to retrieve bibliometrical information. So the final slide, this just gives you information about contact details. If you want to contact BBIH, we've got the contact information on either BREPL's or the IHR's website. And through these links, you can keep up to date with the wider work of the bibliography, which we have certainly at the IHR. We have blogs, events, research seminars and newsletters, and there's more information about BBIH and the other BREPL's databases on the BREPL's website too. So that's the end of our whistle-stop presentation, and we're very happy to take any questions if people have anything they'd like to ask.